Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Bible Paladin. Last time we began the story of Noah and the Ark.
The Lost Ark?
No, not that one.
Noah's Ark.
Yes, that's the one. And so today we will be reading and reflecting on the rest of the account. If you haven't already, I encourage you to go ahead and watch the previous episode to get some background on the story, particularly some of the historical background about this flood story as well as others. Or take a moment to read chapters 6 and 7 of Genesis yourself for better context. Today we'll be reading chapters 7 and 8 and hear about what happened to Noah, his family, and all the animals.
He saved every animal.
That's right. So let's dive right into the text and see what we can learn. We'll start off with the last verse from chapter 7 and then read all of chapter 8. This chapter details the length of time Noah and company were on the ark, how they finally came to rest on dry land, and the beginning of a new covenant between God and humanity. So I pray that God, who inspired the sacred writers, also inspires us who read the word. The waters maintained their crest over the earth for 150 days. And then God remembered Noah and all the animals, wild and tame, that were with him in the ark. So God made a wind sweep over the waters, and the waters began to subside. The fountains of the abyss and the floodgates of the sky were closed, and the downpour from the sky was held back. Gradually, the waters receded from the earth. At the end of 150 days, the waters had so diminished that in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters continued to diminish until the 10th month, and on the first day of the 10th month, the tops of the mountains appeared. At the end of 40 days, Noah opened the hatch he had made in the ark, and he sent out a raven to see if the waters had lessened on the earth. It flew back and forth until the waters dried off from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the waters had lessened on the earth. But the dove could find no place to alight and perch, and it returned to him in the ark, for there was water all over the earth. Putting out his hand, he caught the dove and drew it back to him inside the ark. He waited 7 more days, and again sent the dove out from the ark. In the evening the dove came back to him, and there in its bill was a plucked off olive leaf. So Noah knew that the waters had lessened on the earth. He waited still another 7 days, and then released the dove once more, and this time it did not come back. In the 601st year of Noah's life, in the 1st month, on the 1st day of the month, the water began to dry up on the earth. Noah then removed the covering of the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was drying up. In the 2nd month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Go out of the ark, together with your wife and your sons' wives. Bring out with you every living thing that is with you, all bodily creatures, be they birds or animals or creeping things of the earth, and let them abound on the earth, breeding and multiplying on it." So Noah came out, together with his wife and his sons' wives, and all the animals, wild and tame, all the birds, and all the creeping creatures of the earth left the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and choosing from every clean animal and every clean bird, he offered holocausts on the altar. When the Lord smelled the sweet odor, he said to himself, "Never again will I doom the earth because of man, since the desires of man's heart are evil from the start. Nor will I ever again strike down all living beings as I have done. As long as the earth lasts, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." Even though the rain stopped after 40 days, the water still covered the earth for about 5 months. We are told that the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat, but most of the land was still underwater. Many have, I believe erroneously, connected this place with Mount Ararat in Turkey, and there have been many expeditions and claims to have found the ark's resting place. However, the phrase in Hebrew seems to indicate a mountainous area rather than a particular mountain, and has been translated as the land of Aratu, or Armenia, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Old Testament. 40 days later, Noah releases a raven, which flies back and forth looking for dry land. This is reminiscent of the Spirit of God hovering over creation. There are many indications that what we are witnessing now is a new creation, at least symbolically, especially as we see the waters and the earth being separated, just as they were in the first chapter of Genesis. After this, Noah sends out a dove. The difference in birds may be due to the merging of the two flood stories, or perhaps each bird had a different symbolism, which has since been lost to us. Ravens do show up later in Scripture and can symbolize wisdom and knowledge in Jewish tradition, but also they can be omens of either good or bad. In the flood story in the Mesopotamian epic, Gilgamesh, a dove, a swallow, and a raven are each sent forth in succession. We are told 3 times that Noah releases a dove, waiting 7 days after each time that it returns. Notice again the use of familiar numbers, 3 and 7. 7 in Hebrew often represents perfection or wholeness. Also, the symbolism of the dove, or Yonah in Hebrew, is that of love, as later we will see in the Song of Songs is referencing for the beloved. Dove in Aramaic can mean a messenger of peace and faith. Of course, based on verse 11, a dove with an olive branch in its beak has become the universal symbol of peace. And the whole scene with the dove shows us that the storm is over and the earth is safe for return and for everything to begin again. It is literally a moment of world peace. And once the earth is dry, God tells Noah to leave the ark. It is important to note that after Noah does all these experiments with the birds, which were known to sailors at that time, to discern whether it was safe for him and the animals to depart, he still waits for God to tell him before he actually leaves the ark. Noah knows that it's better to trust in God than in himself. And then we see the new covenant, which will continue into the next chapter. First, the animals are commanded once again to be fertile and multiply. Creation will continue. Then Noah and his family come out. Immediately after they leave the ark, Noah engages in prayer. In this case, a ritual prayer or sacrifice. The first act of Adam and Eve was to disobey God. And yet the first act of Noah and his family is to praise God. This continues the theme of a new heavens and a new earth. And remember the 7 clean animals that Noah was to take into the ark with him? Well, now he builds an altar and sacrifices them as a burnt offering or holocaust, one of each. His offering is accepted by God, and then God makes him a promise. He acknowledges that humans will always do evil things, but that he will never curse the ground again because of it and will never strike them all down. He also confirms that life will go on just as he had planned, with seasons, days, and nights. So let's continue with the rest of this covenant. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fertile and multiply and fill the earth. Dread fear of you shall come from all the animals of the earth and all the birds of the air, upon all the creatures that move about on the ground and all the fishes of the sea. Into your power they are delivered. Every creature that is alive shall be yours to eat. I give them all to you as I did the green plants. Only flesh with its lifeblood still in it you shall not eat. For your own lifeblood too I will demand an accounting. From every animal I will demand it, and from man, in regard to his fellow man, I will demand an accounting for human life. If anyone sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of God has man been made. Be fertile then and multiply, abound on earth and subdue it." God said to Noah and to his sons with him, "See, I am now establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, all the birds and all the various tame and wild animals that were with you and came out of the ark. I will establish my covenant with you, that never again shall all bodily creatures be destroyed by the waters of a flood. There shall not be another flood to devastate the earth." God added, "This is the sign that I am giving for all ages to come, of the covenant between me and you and every living creature with you. I set my bow in the clouds to serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow appears in the clouds, I will recall the covenant I have made between me and you and all living beings, so that the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all mortal beings. As the bow appears in the clouds, I will see it, and recall the everlasting covenant that I have established between God and all living beings, all mortal creatures that are on the earth. God told Noah, "This is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all mortal creatures that are on earth." In this new creation, we see similarities between what God told the first humans and to what he is telling to Noah and his family. But we also see some significant differences. They are once again told to reproduce and fill the earth, but now there is a different relationship with the animals. Man has been delegated command over them, but the animals will now fear human beings. Now humans don't just have power over the animals, but they are also allowed to eat them. The only prohibition is against eating the blood. The blood for both humans and animals is the seed of life. It is sacred, and therefore it shall not be consumed. This becomes very important once we get to the various dietary and purification laws. Based on the next verse, maybe humans are allowed to eat animals because of their inclination to violence and killing. It's better for them to kill animals than each other. Noah is told that murder of another human being is not only unacceptable, but will now be punishable with death, unlike the way in which Cain was allowed to live. They're reminded that humans are made in the likeness of God and therefore are sacred. Remember, they have the breath of God within them. The next line is not only directed to Noah, but also to his sons. This shows that the covenant is for the whole family, and we'll soon see to all nations that will be born from them. In other words, all people. But not only this, God tells them that the covenant extends to all animals as well. God's promise to creation is he will not destroy them with a flood ever again, and the sign of this covenant is a rainbow, which is nice because typically they only appear when it rains. And so humans can be assured that whenever it gets cloudy and rains, that God is not getting ready to destroy them. And this is actually very different from other cultures at the time. For them, when they saw a rainbow, they thought it was a sign of the anger of the gods and that something bad was going to happen. And so God has turned around their cultural understanding of what they see in the signs in the sky. Let's finish out this chapter with a somewhat humorous story about Noah and his sons, which on second thought does get pretty dark pretty quickly. The sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from them the whole earth was peopled. Now Noah, a man of the soil, was the first to plant a vineyard. When he drank some of the wine, he became drunk and lay naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness, and he told his two brothers outside about it. Shem and Japheth, however, took a robe, and holding it on their backs, they walked backward and covered their father's nakedness. Since their faces were turned the other way, they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke up from his drunkenness and learned what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, the lowest of slaves, shall he be to his brothers." He also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Let Canaan be his slave. May God expand Japheth, so that he dwells among the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his slave." Noah lived 350 years after the flood. The whole lifetime of Noah was 950 years. Then he died. Once again, we are introduced to Noah's sons, and also one of his grandsons, Canaan. We are also told that he was a man of the soil, and it seems that perhaps the punishment of Adam was lessened a bit, just as it was prophesied in a previous chapter, for he is successful in planting a vineyard. In fact, he was the first to do so, and he was able to discover what is arguably one of the best fruits, the grape. They come in bunches, so they can be shared amongst friends. Of course, you can make with grapes juice, jam, and wine. And even when they're dead, they're just raisins. And so Noah begins to discover some of the uses of the grape, and is told that he figures out how to ferment them, and of course he creates wine. Now, Noah, being the first one to create wine, probably was not aware of the intoxicating effects of wine. And after the last few months that he had on the ark and the flood and everything, he started drinking the wine, and it probably just hit the spot for him. And so he passes out naked in his tent. And shortly after, one of his sons, Ham, comes in and discovers him, laying out there all spread out in his tent. Now, he thinks it's funny and runs to tell his brothers about it. Well, his brothers, honoring their father, come in and do so in such a way to respect their father and not expose his shame to everyone else. So what is the point of this story? For one, although it wouldn't be written down as a commandment until later, it was pretty much universally understood that one must honor their mother and father, which is something that Ham did not do. He looked upon his father's shame and wanted to share it with his brothers. And of course, ever since that incident in the Garden of Eden, the Hebrews have been very modest people. And so they considered if one were to look upon someone's nakedness, it was shameful. So upon waking up, Noah curses Canaan, which seems a bit odd since it was Ham that did this. Some scholars suggest that this may have been a composite of two stories, which included one where it was Canaan that was actually guilty instead of his father Ham. However, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in its commentary on Genesis, the author believes that Noah cursed Canaan instead of Ham because God had already blessed Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And so Noah, of course, was not going to go against God's blessing. And of course, later in Israelite history, Canaan is enslaved by the Israelites. At that point, the Canaanites no longer follow God, but have created, in a sense, their own religion. Shem and Japheth, however, are blessed, and because they did respect their father. We are then told that how long Noah lived, and that, like all of God's creatures, he too died. So now that we've heard the story of the flood, what does it all mean? How can we learn from such an ancient story and make it relevant for today? So far throughout Genesis, we've been getting glimpses of God in a human light, or some would say even an anthropomorphized description of God. He creates with the clay of the earth, walks through the garden, speaks with people as if he's right in front of them, even enjoys the smell of the odor of the sacrifice that Noah offers. God also displays very human emotions such as grief and regret. Perhaps he is shown in such a way to model a sort of behavior for all of us, and the ways in which we might behave, and even the consequences for actions, whether they be good or bad. A common image of God is that of a parent, and that creation are his children. For those of us who are parents, how often have our children often done things that we've disagreed with, have gone astray, or done things that we would have wished they would have done differently? Or even in any relationship, how often do the people that we know behave in ways that we find difficult to deal with? God is dealing with this as well. There's another idea of God that may be more difficult to grasp or to understand or even agree with. But perhaps God in this story is actually showing us what growth looks like. After the flood, he declares that he will never do such a thing again, as if to say that perhaps this could have been dealt with differently. My creation, my children, my beloved are too precious for me to destroy. Instead, I will make a covenant with them. Maybe they need a little bit more freedom, or maybe some more rules, maybe a different law. But we'll figure it out together. What might this say about our own families and relationships? Maybe it's time to start again, to reevaluate, to learn from past mistakes and make changes. Overall, the story is much more than about a flood or God's wrath.
I think it's a love story about believing in each other.
Yeah, perhaps it's just a love story after all. We will also be reflecting on the ending, especially in the next chapter, which sets up for the spreading of civilization across the earth, just as we talked about this being a new creation. But I think the curse and blessing of Noah's sons also needs a second look. The curse of Canaan, and in turn his descendants, brings up an interesting question about generational sin. This is often confused with the idea of personal sin, which is this idea that this type of sin brings about God's judgment and punishment in real time. And this was a common belief amongst many Jews. However, Jesus warns against such thoughts in John chapter 9. When his disciples see a man blind from birth, they ask Jesus, well, whose fault was it? Was it his sin or his parents' sin? And Jesus tells them, well, it was neither. But this opportunity will allow me to show you God's glory. So how can we understand generational sin today? Well, unfortunately, this is the reality that many people put their children through. When kids learn bad behavior or experience abuse or witness violence, they often carry that with them throughout their lives, and often even continue the cycle with their own children or in their own relationships. It becomes very difficult to break the cycle of abuse or addiction. And many psychologists will tell you, often those who are abused end up becoming abusers themselves. This is not a punishment from God, but rather a learned behavior. But I think one of the themes of the flood story is that it doesn't have to be that way. Just as the sin of the first humans don't have to continue through us. We can break the cycle even in a corrupt and wicked generation, just as Noah did. It takes a lot of work and trust in God. But we are a new creation, and we are wondrously made. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that the scriptures are bringing you new insights and hope. Next time, we'll be finishing up this section of Genesis with the story of the Tower of Babel. Until then, be renewed and do good.